What's up guys and gals, and welcome back to another Division 2 build video. If you happen to be new to the channel or you're just enjoying the content, then be sure to ground and pound that like and subscribe button. And also don't forget to reach up there, trigger the bell, and turn on post notifications so that way you never miss a live stream or a video that is uploaded. Also be sure to check out all the links in the description below. Furthermore, if you want to become an exclusive member of the Guerrilla Militia, or aka Guerrilla Nation, then get exclusive content, sub badges, loyalty badges, and tons of perks just by becoming a member, so slap that join button. But anyways, I basically did every other PvE build more consistently and always updated it with every title update. Well, there is one particular one that I have yet to do, and it was asked of me to actually cover it and go over it. So I'm here to please the viewers and the fans, so here we go. So let's start out with the Unstoppable Force. We have the P416, and then we have a secondary as the Eagle Bearer, but our primary and the synergy works better with the regular custom P416, and the holstered talent of the Eagle Bearer is just an added bonus. So let's start with those weapons first. As stated, it is a custom P416, 26.3k, and we are using Preservation. Killing an enemy repairs 10% armor over 5 seconds. Headshot kills improve the repair. Requires 7 or more defensive Legos, and we have 8. And of course, Allegro, 10% rate of fire, and then we have Protected Deploy. While equipped, this weapon grants plus 10% bonus armor while deploying a skill. I'd rather have Protected Reload in this slot, but beggars can't be choosers. That would be the perfect storm when it comes to this particular P416. And actually, it could probably still get just a little bit stronger because it is only a 497 gear score, but 26.3k is still really good. As far as its attachments, we have the EXPS3 Hollow Sight, 8% damage to elites. We have the Sturdy Extended 5.56 mag, plus 20 rounds, minus 10% reload. And then of course, the underbarrel, we get that 10% reload back that we lost. And then we have in the muzzle brake the 5% damage to elites. Now on to the Eagle. The Eagle is at 32.5k base damage. And of course, if you don't already know the talents, I'll scroll through them, but basically we are just using it for the holster talent, which is Protected Fire. While holstered, gain 10% bonus armor while firing your current weapon. Meaning when I'm shooting my P416, I get a 10% bonus armor. So it comes in really well. Now, if you wanted to use like the Pestilence, let's say you're doing heroic missions or things of that nature, and you're getting hit by tons and tons of status effects by NPCs. Well, the holstered talent of the Pestilence does come in handy as well. While holstered, gain a 20% bonus armor for 5 seconds whenever you are affected by blind, bleed, or burning, such as let's say you get hit by one of those Johnny 5 dogs, the sniper dogs, then you'll cause bleeding, so you'll gain 20% bonus armor once you know that bleeding is applied. Also with those Molotov throwers, if you're burning, then you'll gain that 20% armor. And then of course, if you come across those wannabe Ninja Turtles that has the trash cans as shields that tend to blind you just by walking around certain corners because I guess they try to ambush you, then also you'll gain that 20% bonus armor. So basically it's just whatever you prefer. You could either go with the Chatterbox for the Blabbermouth talent. While holstered, reloading your weapon within 5 seconds after a kill grants 20% rate of fire. So this also comes in really nice and handy. It's just personal preference and whatever you choose. Now as far as the sidearm, I just went with one with Rooted. While equipped and in cover, all skill damage and healing is the main thing that we're going, is increased by 25% per 10 seconds. Buff is lost when exiting cover. Can occur once per 60 seconds. So now that that's over with, let's go into the gunner specialization. The reason why I chose the gunner is because every kill that you get a percentage of armor back. So it synergizes really well with Unstoppable Force. Because with Unstoppable Force, in order for it to proc, you have to get a kill first. So after I get that kill, that procs Unstoppable Force, also in turn procs that armor on kill that I get from the Gunner Specialist, plus with other armor on kill that I actually have in a defensive mod, and it kind of synergizes well together. Basically anything that requires actually getting a kill it procs everything at once, even with the preservation on my weapon, as it states killing an enemy, which kill it, it procs preservation, procs unstoppable force, and also procs the percentage base armor that I get back from utilizing the gunner specialist. But 10% armor over 5 seconds, another 10% armor from the gunner specialist, and then as you can see how it stacks and is a real complete onion, and we're just peeling back these multiple layers of synergy here. So let's start with the chest piece. We have 2-piece Fenris Group AB on, and we get 10% assault rifle damage and then 10% protection from elites for it. On this particular chest piece, we have 19,310 armor, 220 skill power, and then 13.5% weapon damage with unstoppable force. Killing an enemy grants 2% weapon damage for every 25,000 max armor. Requires 7 or more defensive Legos. We have 7, and of course we have hardened. 10% armor. If you want to go a different route, let's say you put armor on your backpack instead of like hard hitting, you can go with hard hitting here for that additional 10% damage to elites. It just all is based on personal preference, but anything around, I'd say 90%, you're great, and more or less anything over 90% in my opinion is kind of like overkill. Because with any percentage base that's additive or multiplicative, especially multiplicative side, you can't multiply 0 against something else because you're always going to get 0. So you have to not only do damage to elites, but you do need weapon damage along with that. And the more you have of both, the better you are. But then also we have an offensive mod slot with 1.5% weapon damage, 2% pistol damage, and then 5% assault rifle damage for a total of 6.5% going to our AR since we are utilizing the assault rifle. So with this one particular piece, we have 20% weapon damage just from our chest piece. Now on to the second piece of the Fenris Group AB, which is the knee pads. The knee pads also can have 2 talents on them. With this particular knee pads, we have 11,460 armor. I need a better armor roll there. And then, of course, we're utilizing hard hitting for that 10% damage to elites, and then patience. After being in cover for 5 second, armor repairs by 5% every second. Requires 6 or more defensive Legos. We have 8. And this is another synergistic talent that goes well with the preservation. Since, you get 10% armor over 5 seconds, well, let's say those 5 seconds are ended from preservation, and that's how long it takes for patience to kick in. So you get 10% armor 5 seconds there, and then once you get that 10%, then you start getting 5% every second from patience, and then with every kill you're still stacking on preservation, getting more armor, and then also you're getting that percentage based armor from every kill from utilizing the gunner specialist, and also when unstoppable force, when you get in these kills, it's going to proc as well, so that way you can do even more DPS and damage to whatever is in front of you. Now moving on, we have 3 pieces of Heligard, not necessarily for any particular reason other than the holster, because it has 2 offensive mod slots. In this particular one, we have 14.5% health, 29,265 health, and then 2 offensive mod slots. In the first one, we have 1.5% weapon damage, 2% marksman rifle damage, and then 5% assault rifle damage. And then the second one, 1% weapon damage, 2% LMG damage, and then 5% assault rifle damage. So just on our holster alone, we are getting 12.5% weapon damage. Let's say you want to go with a little bit more skills and have a little bit more in your heals. I'm a poet, didn't know it. Then you can also go with a holster such as this one. It does have another synergizing attribute on it, which is the armor on kill. It's just it's only 8,906. I'm looking for a higher base. I did have one at one time. I had like 14k armor on kill. Something like that in this spot would definitely be more viable. It would actually make my chem heal a little stronger, as well as that armor on kill, like I stated, does synergize really well. I'm just waiting for the perfect armor on kill roll to actually put in this spot so I can utilize this particular piece. But all Heligard comes with those 2 offensive mod slots. But let's say you don't have the armor on kill, you can still just go with your basic, health and then skill power if you want some more skill power. But since it's PvE, and even for things like the raid, you don't necessarily need that much skill power, or really any at all, because it's basically just DPS wise. But moving on. Now to the mask. 11,866 health and 43% damage to elites with hard hitting. Additional 10% damage to elites, it gives us 53% damage to elites just from our mask. And of course, in the utility, 60 skill power, 255 drone skill power, and then, dude, why are you walking through my shot for? Don't you realize I'm doing a YouTube video right here on a build? Come on, respect, brah, respect. Anyways, back to it. 255 drone skill power, and then 344 chem launcher, which is that chem launcher skill power. It's not really that great, but it does at least allow me to unlock a little bit more of a heal by way of mod. But like I stated, you don't really need it if you want to use a utility mod here that just gives you an additional reload speed. I do have one that's 4.5% reload speed on it, but that only cuts it down by, I think, 1/10 of a second. So it's just basically personal preference and just what you ever prefer, depending on how your playstyle is and what you want to utilize while using this build. Now on to the backpack. 10,328 armor, 10% weapon damage, and 16,668 health with hardened. And of course, safeguard we're not using because it requires 4 or less offensive Legos, and we have 9. But it does have an offensive mod slot in it. In this case, 1% weapon damage, 4% assault rifle damage, and then 4% LMG damage. Now I do have one that is another 6.5% going to an assault rifle, but if I was wanting to use like an LMG for more sustained damage, then, you know, at least this mod is in place and I'm still getting 5% to an LMG if I so choose to switch and put a secondary as an LMG other than my Eagle Bearer. Then it has a defensive mod slot, 5773 armor, 1.5% total armor, and then 2,558 armor on kill. That goes along with all the other synergistic attributes and talents of this particular build and furthers my survivability. Now on to the gloves. It's Alp Summit gloves. No, we're not utilizing them for the 20% skill haste because we're not working on skills. Just because it has the 10% assault rifle damage, the hard hitting with the plus 10% damage to elites, and then of course it has an offensive mod slot. In this particular one, we have 1.5% weapon damage, and then 5% assault rifle damage for another 6.5%. So on our gloves, we are getting 16.5% weapon damage going to our AR just off these gloves alone. So with this particular setup, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 offensive mod slots that can really give you a teetotal boost. But yet, if you want to go that little extra mile and step, you can switch out your backpack in this situation for something along the lines of like this Murakami, for instance. Yes, I do get, you know, more armor, and it also has a defensive mod slot that'll put it, I believe, at 321k armor. But as you can see, I'm losing, you know, some damage out of it because it only has 3%. Or I could switch it to this one. It also has a defensive slot, but my health does dip down to 276. So it's not really that beneficial. I gain a little bit of health, but the only really damage I'm gaining is that 10% damage to elites, and I'll show you here in the gallery down below the difference and which is better, in my opinion, just based off numbers than the way I actually have it. I believe it was only 1k stronger the other way with having that 10% damage to elites on it and then furthering my tankiness, but we'll get to that in a moment. Let's go over our character sheet. So with the character sheet, and sometimes I do apologize, I do forget to include it, so much apologies. So let's start out with the custom P416, 26,260 weapon damage. None of that really matters. 2.2 reload time. In the offense, we have 30% all weapon damage bonus, and then 59% assault rifle damage bonus for a total of 89% weapon damage. And then, of course, you know, we have the baked in 29% health damage. And then on armor, we get that 10% armor on kill, 14,864 armor regen. But as you can also see, it doesn't calculate those number values of the armor on kill that you have stacked. It's only the percentage based, as you can see, in which I get from Gunner. So this character sheet does not factor in or show the actual number of values that I have in that mod. And then on other pieces, if you would have them as far as the armor on kill, such as like I showed you on the Gila holster. 97,158 health, 48,579 health regen, and then we have 20% hazard protection, bleed, blind, burn, confuse, disrupt, shock, and poison. And then there's our skills. 1594 chem launcher, 2080 on the hive, which is those are the two main skills, especially when it comes to the raid that you want to use. And there's everything else as follows. So let's hop on down here to the firing range, and then you have the damage to health is 63 to body, and then 97 to the head. Now when it comes to the EB, one to the dome, 98, and then of course one to the body at 63. And then it goes down to the health, and as you can see, it goes up even more. So now let's switch it over to the other way and add that 10% damage to elites. This one is probably the closest because it has the 9% weapon damage, which is almost is equivalent to this particular attribute on this backpack, just down by 1%. And also this one has that offensive mod slot, and that gives me that 5%. So a total of 6% more weapon damage on this chest piece versus 10% damage to elites and 9% weapon damage on the other. So let's switch over to it. Let's start with the P416. So that way there's no trickery going on. Not like a used car salesman trying to trick anybody. So at 49 this way. So the other way I was at 48. This way is 49. So a 1k difference for that 10% damage to elites versus that additional 6% weapon damage from the other. So there's a 4% difference, and you will get 1k stronger as far as damage wise, going with the 10% damage to elites and the 9% weapon damage. But it all depends on personal preference, and if you're dealing with a lot of purples and it's non-heroic stuff, then I would go the way that I had it, because that all weapon damage is going to be more useful on purples and red NPCs than this way that would be just more effective ever so slightly just against the gold NPCs or elite. But now to the EB, 57 and then 89. So not too much of a difference. Still, thank you for the viewage, all the love and support. Appreciate you guys so much. We'll see you fudging later.